Hello, I'm Steve Barnett, Superintendent of the Paulding County School District. Welcome to our video presentation on a proposed realignment of attendance boundaries for certain elementary schools currently impacted by enrollment growth and capacity challenges. To help address some of these challenges, this school year we opened additions at Roberts and Northside Elementary, which together added 36 new classrooms. And we'll be opening a new elementary school with 54 classrooms for the 26-27 school year, Crossroads Elementary School. This new school is being built with your E-SPLOST funds and will be located on the same campus as Crossroads Middle School. We're excited about the construction progress and look forward to welcoming students to this new school next August. As you can imagine, the expanded capacity created by these additions at Northside and Roberts combined with the opening of a new elementary school presents a great opportunity to address enrollment growth and relieve crowded conditions at 7 existing elementary schools. Of course, achieving this will require a boundary realignment, which will impact each of these schools to some degree. Having schools with enrollments that align closely with their capacities ensures the best possible educational experience for the families and students we serve and allows for the most efficient use of taxpayer resources. Over the past several months, we have developed and reviewed more than 100 potential options to balance enrollment and capacity at these 7 elementary schools. From that process, we have narrowed the options to 3 proposed plans. A final version of one of those plans will be submitted to the Board of Education for consideration on January 27th. In this video, our Public Information Officer, Jay Dillon, and Operational Planning Coordinator, David Ponder, will share detailed information about why and how the proposed attendance boundaries were developed, the next steps in the process, and where you can find this information and submit your feedback. We hope you're as excited as we are to see enrollment at these schools better align with the capacity of their buildings, and that you find this presentation helpful and informative. Thank you for taking the time to participate. Your involvement in our schools is what makes them great. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jay Dillon, Public Information Officer for the Paulding County School District. First, I want to follow up on Mr. Barnett's comments and say how excited we are about the classroom additions that opened up this fall at Northside and Roberts Elementary Schools and the progress on Crossroads Elementary School. Construction is on schedule, and we can't wait for the new school to open in August, but there's a lot of work to be done between now and then. One of the most important tasks is determining an attendance zone around the new school, as well as balancing enrollment compared to school capacities at other contiguous schools. As part of our communication efforts, we want to be as open and transparent about this process as possible. This video hopefully will provide a clear explanation about how the proposed attendance boundary realignment was developed and the factors that were considered. We will be talking about the process, including forecasted enrollment, school choice, and next steps. To help with the details, I'm joined by David Ponder. Mr. Ponder is the school district's operational planning coordinator. Using a wide range of data resources and technology, he's been working diligently on these proposals for the last several months. Welcome, Mr. Ponder.
Thank you, Jay.
Okay, so the most important part of any attendance boundary process is hearing from the families who will be impacted. Since you're watching this presentation, you already know we've set up a website where all the information related to this process has been compiled in one place. The website also has a feedback tool called Slido, where you can provide feedback on any or all of the proposed plans. We encourage you to first watch this video and other videos on this page, along with reviewing proposals and documentation. Hopefully, the information we provide here will help answer your questions, but if not, feel free to submit questions in the appropriate place in Slido. We'll be responding to all questions submitted. So the format tonight will be for me to prompt Mr. Ponder with a few common questions and let him provide the basic answers. Let's start with this basic one. This presentation is titled Elementary School Boundary Realignment Plan. What exactly does that refer to, and what are we going to learn about in this discussion?
Well, Jay, this video introduces the Elementary School Boundary Realignment Plan for the 2026-2027 school year. Our district's growing rapidly, and some schools are overcrowded while others have room to accept more students. Realignment ensures every student has access to quality learning environments without overcrowding. In this video, we'll explain the changes, the reasons behind them, and how they will affect families. The purpose of this video is to share information and ask for community feedback. We want this to be a community-driven process. We'll review the challenges, show you what improvements have been made, and outline the steps for creating new boundaries. Your input matters because these decisions impact neighborhoods, transportation, and school communities.
So why is boundary realignment necessary?
Well, that's a great question, Jay. And the main reason is capacity concerns. Several elementary schools, like Dallas, Abney, and Shelton, are operating well above their intended capacity. Some schools, like Dallas, are projected to reach nearly double their intended capacity within 10 years. That means crowded classrooms, limited resources, and strain on both students and teachers. To help alleviate problems such as these, we've been working to expand some schools while currently building a new one, Crossroads Elementary. This slide shows a previous list that we shared back in 2022, highlighting a list of schools with capacity concerns. Since that time, we've engaged in several projects to reduce the overcrowding in those buildings. First, we started a boundary realignment at Nebo, Union, and New Georgia elementary schools. Next, we added an addition at Burnt Hickory Elementary, followed by our most recent additions at Northside and Roberts Elementary schools. Finally, we're slated to open Crossroads Elementary in August 2026. Let's take a closer look at those last three additions. Northside Elementary now has 20 additional classrooms, which opened in the fall of 2025. This expansion increases capacity and supports hands-on learning in science, technology, engineering, and math. These upgrades help balance enrollment and improve educational opportunities. Roberts Elementary also received 16 new classrooms and a STEM lab in the fall of 2025. These changes allow the school to serve more students by providing additional modern learning spaces. These classroom additions have been part of our long-term plan to address upcoming growth and reduce overcrowding in nearby schools. And finally, we're in the process of building Crossroads Elementary School, a brand new school that will open in the fall of 2026. It will serve the northeastern part of the county, which has the highest student population density. Crossroads Elementary will include 54 classrooms, a STEM lab, and space for future growth. This school is essential for balancing enrollment and reducing pressure on existing schools in the most densely populated region of our county.
So these construction projects have been a key part of the district's plan to address enrollment and capacity needs. So tell us about the process for deciding new boundaries.
Jay, when we create proposals for new attendance boundaries, we follow a four-step process. First, we gather data on our student enrollment, current and proposed housing developments in the county, and school building capacity, which is how many students and programs can safely and comfortably occupy a school's current space. Second, we work with a nationally known demographer, MGT, to prepare forecast and potential boundaries that align to the guiding principles we use for this process. Third, we develop several alignment scenarios and hold community forums to seek comments and feedback from the impacted communities. And finally, we present a final recommendation to the Board of Education based on the research and feedback gleaned through the entire process. This structured approach ensures decisions are data-driven and community-informed.
You mentioned working with a demographer to develop enrollment forecasts. What type of information do we capture with an enrollment forecast, and how does that help us plan?
Well, Jay, the forecast that we generate in partnership with MGT provides us with a projected number of students who are expected at each of our schools over the next 10 years. The chart shown here shows the results of the most recent forecast for our current elementary schools. Starting on the left side of the chart, you'll see the name of each elementary school. Next, you'll see the school's current capacity. Working across, you will then see the school's current and forecasted percentage of capacity for each year from 2024 to 2034. For example, Dallas Elementary is at 159% of capacity now and projected to stay near 200%, which is far above capacity. Color coding the capacity percentages helps identify overcrowded schools quickly. Blue means under 70% of capacity. Green is 70 to 95%. Yellow is 96 to 105%. And red is 106% or higher. Blue can indicate a school is currently being underutilized. However, that could be because we're aware of large housing developments that are currently being constructed in that area. Green is typically where we would like all of our schools to operate. Yellow implies that schools are approaching the higher end of our ideal capacity, and we may need minor mitigations to help with capacity. These mitigations can include adjusting non-essential staffing or programs to maximize instructional space. When schools enter the red zone, however, other steps must be taken. While we can mitigate overcrowding in the short term, we must look at new construction and/or boundary realignment as long-term solutions. We do want to make a note about the reliability of this multi-year forecast. We compiled this data with the assistance of MGT, who, as we stated earlier, is a nationally known demographer with years of experience working with school forecast data. Even with their years of experience in creating forecast models, MGT advises us to treat the first 1 to 5 years of the forecast as the most reliable. They also caution that as you move closer to the 10-year mark, the results get a little hazier, as many more variables can be encountered during that time, which could impact those numbers.
So, which schools are we looking at for this proposed boundary realignment?
Let's reduce our overall elementary school chart down to the schools that we're going to focus on during the upcoming boundary realignment. This chart highlights the urgency we see in making the changes in the northern half of the district. For instance, Dallas Elementary is currently at 159% of capacity and projected to hit 200% by 2032. Abney Elementary is already at 114% of capacity and will climb to 137%. Meanwhile, schools like Northside Elementary, thanks to the recent addition, are only at 54% today, with room to spare by 2034 if no boundary changes were made. Using the data from our demographic forecast to identify schools that are overcrowded and those that have additional space allows us to create realignment plans that can help balance enrollment to make better use of our facilities.
As we're looking at opening a new elementary school and changing some of the attendance boundaries at others, what other data, in addition to current building capacity, is used to develop these proposals?
Jay, to plan for facility usage, we need to understand both where our current students live and where future students will reside. These two maps depicting student density and residential development for 2024-2025 show the basis for how we are tracking both of those metrics. The map on the left shows the population density for elementary age students within Paulding County. In other words, it shows where our K-5 students currently reside. The lightly colored regions are sparsely populated with fewer students, and the dark regions are more densely populated, which means there are more students in these areas. The yellow to orange to red regions represent the areas of the county that are most dense with students. The map on the right shows the active, planned, and future residential developments within the county that we are currently tracking. Each polygon represents an active, planned, or proposed residential development. We should note that we are aware of some developments that are in their earliest stages that are not shown on the map, but we are taking them into account as we plan for future growth. Taken together, these maps highlight our county's areas of rapid growth, particularly in the northeastern region of Paulding County, which has the densest student population. The proximity of this dense student population to active and future residential developments is a key factor in planning boundaries.
So what are we seeing in regard to residential development in the area with the 7 elementary schools we've identified and the new Crossroads Elementary?
Well, as we focus on the area that we're examining during our proposed boundary realignment, you'll find that there are multiple developments that are active, coming online soon, or will begin construction within the next 5 to 10 years. We gather information on these developments by communicating directly with both our local governing bodies and the developers themselves. We work with our demographer, MGT, to review satellite imagery of the development areas, as well as conducting on-site visits to the applicable properties. The map on the left shows how many developments, represented by different colored polygons, are expected within each school's current boundary. The map also references the projected number of housing units associated with those developments. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll see one or more students in every housing unit. A careful study of our district's current and historical data by our demographer shows that we can expect approximately 0.3 elementary age students per unit. The chart on the right shows a list of those developments shown on the map. It lists each housing development, their status, and which school they'll affect. Total units refers to the number of housing units to be constructed at the end of all construction. Total units occupied refers to the number of units that are expected to be completed within the 10 years of the forecast. By tracking these developments, these numbers help us anticipate future enrollment needs beyond the current forecast.
So we've seen that population density and proposed residential development are major factors in planning. Is that why we're constructing Crossroads Elementary so close to two existing elementary schools?
Well, like we saw on the student population density map just a few minutes ago, the northeastern corner of Paulding County is the most densely populated. As a result, we need a significant number of classrooms to be able to serve those students. Both the chart and the map shown here show just how many students live within a 4-mile radius of the Crossroads Elementary campus. During our data collection, we found over 700 elementary age students living within 1 mile of the Crossroads campus. Within 2 miles of the campus, we found over 1,800 students. Within 3 miles, there were over 2,700 students, and that number expanded to over 3,300 elementary age students when you looked at a 4-mile radius. That highlights just how dense the student population is in this area. Likewise, it confirms the need for the new school to relieve the crowded conditions at the schools currently serving that area.
That sounds like a great deal of information and a lengthy process. Once you have an idea of how many students are going to live in a region next year, 5 years, and even 10 years from now, how do you go about creating proposed attendance boundaries?
Well, Jay, it's a lengthy process that takes our demographer many months to develop. But once we have this information, we go about the business of making decisions about our school capacity and our school boundary lines. At the heart of those decisions, you'll find several principles and criteria that we use to guide our work. On this slide, you can see our guiding principles. Those guiding principles include prioritizing access to equitable instructional programs, alleviating overcrowded schools, balancing enrollments, minimizing the disruption for students, and complying with any applicable board policies and regulations, plus any associated state and federal regulations. Following these guiding principles keeps the process fair and focused on student success. In addition to our guiding principles, you'll also see that we follow a set of criteria that are broken down into primary and secondary categories. The most essential criteria, however, is creating a boundary that ensures a student enrollment that falls within the school's instructional capacity, both for the upcoming year and future years. If the capacity of a school is 800 students, we want to create boundaries that will yield fewer than 800 students for the upcoming year, but also for as many years into the future as possible. As you see from the secondary criteria, we also consider other factors whenever possible, such as safety and traffic patterns, previous redistricting, balancing special programs, and school feeder alignment whenever possible.
You said whenever possible for some of those secondary criteria. Can you talk about that a little more?
Sure. Paulding County School District is unique given its size and the location of its residents. While there are some regions that are more densely populated, as we saw on the student density map earlier, there are areas that are also very rural and sparse. This can make it difficult to adhere to our secondary criteria in the redistricting process, such as aligning feeder patterns or intact neighborhoods, due to the size of enrollment and the growth of our district.
So we've gathered a lot of information about our student population and our school capacities. We've opened classroom additions at Northside and Roberts Elementaries, plus we've started construction on our newest school, Crossroads Elementary. What is the district's plan for determining who will go to the new school? And how will that affect other attendance boundaries for nearby and contiguous schools?
That's a great question, Jay. Following a careful analysis of the student population, school capacity needs, and the geography of the area involved, we have developed 3 possible plans that could be used for the opening of Crossroads Elementary and a realignment of the attendance zones for our overcapacity schools in the northern half of the county. For ease of comparison, we have named these 3 plans Plan Blue, Plan Yellow, and Plan Green. Each plan adjusts the boundaries differently to open Crossroads Elementary and balance enrollment at the remaining schools. A detailed version of each plan is available on our Planning for the Future webpage. Those detailed plans include copies of all maps that allow for street-level views. In addition to the detailed maps, you will also find an impacted address list on the webpage. This list will allow you to search for your specific street and neighborhood and see how it will be impacted by each of the 3 plans. Let's take a moment to review the basics of each plan so you can see the differences. First, let's take a look at Plan Blue. Plan Blue would create the Crossroads Elementary boundary for the northernmost parts of Russell and Shelton's current boundaries. This preserves most of the current transportation patterns in that area. After reducing the number of students at Shelton and Russell, we can address the capacity concerns at Abney Elementary. As shown on the map, you'll see that Plan Blue would transfer portions of Abney's current boundary along Gullidge and Fry Roads to both Shelton and Russell. To address the capacity concerns at Dallas Elementary, you will see that there are 3 areas of Dallas's current attendance zone that would be shifted to Abney, Northside, and Roberts. From downtown Dallas to Highway 381 and down part of Merchants Drive, those current Dallas students would transfer to Northside Elementary. The current Dallas students living in the Industrial Boulevard area would move to Abney, and the south portion of Dallas's attendance zone would change over to Roberts Elementary School. To properly plan for future growth following these proposed changes, a portion of Northside's attendance zone along Highway 61 would be transferred to Burnt Hickory Elementary. This area is slated for future development and currently houses no K-5 students. Next, let's look at Plan Yellow. Plan Yellow would create the Crossroads Elementary boundary from portions of the northernmost parts of Russell and Shelton's current boundaries. Russell yields the same territory as seen in Plan Blue, but the northern portion of Shelton is divided, with one portion going to Crossroads and another changing to Burnt Hickory, which is the large portion of Bentwater currently attending Shelton. Likewise, a portion of Burnt Hickory's territory along Harmony Grove Church Road would be transferred to Crossroads Elementary. This would include the neighborhoods of Bentley Station, Harmony Grove, and Bentwater at Winding Creek. In Plan Yellow, Shelton and Russell would still be involved in addressing the capacity concerns at Abney Elementary. In Plan Yellow, however, you'll see that the areas transferred to both schools change slightly from those in Plan Blue. The portion that would be transferred to Shelton comes further down Gullidge Road, extending to the Victoria Heights neighborhood. The area that would be transferred to Russell comes further north along Gullidge Road, taking in the Shady Glen neighborhood. Another thing to note about Shelton's boundary in Plan Yellow is that it would retain Hunter's Walk in this plan, which is the neighborhood that sits to the north of the public shopping center. In the other 2 plans, Hunter's Walk would be moved to Crossroads Elementary. Looking at the Dallas Elementary boundary, you will see that the changes presented in Plan Blue remain the same in Plan Yellow. Due to geographic and transportation constraints, the changes proposed for Dallas Elementary look the same in all 3 plans. A small portion of Dallas Elementary would transfer to Abney Elementary, and the same 2 larger portions would transfer to Northside Elementary and Roberts Elementary. In addition, you will see the same land transfer from Northside Elementary to Burnt Hickory Elementary. Finally, let's look at Plan Green. In Plan Green, the Crossroads Elementary boundary would be created from the same northernmost portion of Shelton Elementary's current boundary as seen in Plan Blue. Russell, however, would transfer a smaller portion of its northern boundary to Crossroads Elementary in Plan Green. It does yield 2 portions, one in its northernmost territory, and an area along the Seven Hills Connector. In addition to these transfers, Burnt Hickory Elementary also would yield some of its current territory to Crossroads in Plan Green. This area is along Harmony Grove Church Road, only consisting of the Bentwater at Winding Creek neighborhood. The thought is this would allow some reduction of the traffic heading north along Harmony Grove Church Road. Like both Plan Blue and Plan Yellow, the space created at Shelton Elementary and Russell Elementary would be used to address the capacity concerns at Abney Elementary. You'll notice that the areas that would be ceded to Shelton and Russell in Plan Green are the exact same as the areas in Plan Yellow. As stated with Plan Yellow, the boundary changes proposed for Dallas Elementary are the same in all three plans. Dallas would yield the territory shown to Abney, Northsides, and Roberts Elementaries. Likewise, Burnt Hickory Elementary would assume a portion of Northside Elementary's territory along Highway 61. Remember, there are detailed copies of all three plans on our Planning for the Future webpage. Please refer to these copies for more detailed information about each plan.
It's easy to see that the plans offer three different boundary proposals for the new Crossroads Elementary. But how successful would these plans be in addressing the capacity concerns that we discussed earlier?
Jay, let's take a moment to review the capacity projections of each plan to those we're looking at under our current boundaries. Again, we'll see the 8 schools listed on the left side of the chart, followed by the forecast projections for 2 years, 5 years, 8 years, and 10 years. The first 4 columns show those projections if we were to continue with the current boundaries. As we saw earlier, there are 3 schools in this area that are operating at overcapacity. The chart continues by showing the forecasted capacities under each of the 3 plans, blue, yellow, and green. Under Plan Blue, a smaller area is transferred from Abney to Shelton, which results in the higher capacity percentages seen in those later years. That being said, you can see that there are no schools with percentages in the red category under any of the 3 plans. Glancing over the chart, you can see that all 3 plans solve our overcrowding issues. All 3 would bring the schools into the same general range of capacity, with some schools retaining room for future growth that we know is coming.
That's great that all 3 plans meet our goals, but which one are we going to use? Is there a way for parents to share their thoughts on the 3 plans?
Well, in just a few moments, we'll review how you can go to our webpage to provide your feedback on each of the 3 plans. Please note that this is not a vote for a specific plan, but rather an opportunity to provide feedback on each one. While feedback may indicate one specific plan over the others, there may be an opportunity for us to use feedback from all 3 plans to create a hybrid option.
So what are the next steps in this boundary realignment process?
Let's take a moment to review some of the key upcoming dates. On November 19th, we launched our updated Planning for the Future webpage, which included the posting of this video presentation. Before viewing this video, you may have noticed that the webpage also contains a variety of resources related to this project, including detailed copies of each boundary plan, videos to explain the workflow behind this process, and the link to provide feedback on each of the 3 plans. In December, immediately following Thanksgiving break, we will host 3 community meetings, allowing parents the opportunity to hear this information in face-to-face gatherings at 3 of the nearby middle school campuses. Please note that the same information shared on the website will be presented at all 3 meetings. And on January 13th, the final plan will be presented to the Board of Education. During this intervening time, we encourage families to carefully review each plan and provide us with feedback. As stated earlier, we'll be reviewing all feedback as we prepare the final boundary plan that will be presented to the school board in January.
Can we go over what's available on the webpage one more time?
Sure. On our Planning for the Future webpage, you'll find several helpful items. This includes the overview video that you're watching right now. You'll also find detailed copies of Plan Blue, Plan Yellow, and Plan Green, which include close-up copies of the maps that provide a detailed look at the streets and neighborhoods impacted by each plan. There are two versions posted. One is a copy that includes a recorded voiceover explaining the plan, while the other is a basic PDF copy of the slides. You'll also find a copy of our frequently asked questions sheet, as well as the Slido link where families can provide their feedback on each plan. You can also find the full 2024-2025 demographic study that we completed in partnership with MGT. Think of the webpage as your main resource for staying informed.
So one common question we've received, and is common with boundary realignment, is around school choice. How is school choice handled? Will any of these schools be open for school choice? And if my student's school changes, will there be an opportunity for them to stay at their current school?
That is always a common question about boundary realignments, and the school district has both a policy and a regulation that outlines how students are assigned to schools and school choice options. Policy JBCCA and regulation JBCCA-R are outlined on our Planning for the Future webpage. But let's look at the policy to see what it says. The policy and regulation outline what is called a request to remain process for rising fifth grade students. And the policy says that when attendance zones change, fifth grade students at the time that the zoning change takes effect may attend the school in the new attendance zone, or the student and family may exercise the option to remain in the previously assigned school until the student completes that grade. Families that choose to remain, however, must provide transportation for their students.
Well, what about students in grades kindergarten through fourth at the schools that will be transferring portions of their attendance zones to Crossroads or other elementary schools? What if they want to remain at the school where they are currently zoned?
Well, so once that request to remain window closes and we know the number of fifth grade students who are remaining at their current school, the School Leadership Division will determine if there are seats available at the other elementary schools that will be open for school choice.
So there may be school choice options at the elementary schools depending on available seats. What about at Crossroads Elementary School?
As a brand new school, Crossroads Elementary is not available for school choice during its first 3 years after opening. But yes, there may be seats available at the other schools. I know that's a lot of information to take in. To review that information carefully, you can find our policies and regulations regarding student assignment to school, request to remain, and school choice options, including school choice hardships, on our Planning for the Future webpage.
What's the timeline for the request to remain and school choice?
Once an attendance boundary is determined on January 27th, information about request to remain will be sent to all rising fifth grade students. The window for request to remain will be open from January 28th through February 11th. Once completed, the schools available for school choice will be determined, and the school choice window will open from February 12th to February 27th. Again, you can find more information about this policy and process on our Planning for the Future webpage.
So how can families ask questions?
Well, once again, we encourage families to use the Slido link on the Planning for the Future webpage for providing feedback. Additionally, questions may be submitted via email at planningforthefuture@paulding.k12.ga.us. Use the links provided to give your feedback on each of the 3 plans. We want your feedback to make the best decision because your feedback is essential to creating fair and effective boundaries for our students.
David, thank you so much for sharing information about this comprehensive process. I'm sure our families will be grateful for the opportunity to review all of this material and offer their input. Any final thoughts?
We want to thank everyone for being part of this process. We appreciate you taking the time to learn about our elementary school realignment plans. Every part of shaping these proposals has been focused on creating the best learning environment for our students now and in the future. We know boundary changes can feel significant, and that's why we want to share these details to keep you informed and involved. We value your input. Please visit our Planning for the Future webpage to learn more and share your feedback. Together, we can make these transitions smooth and positive for all families, ensuring every child has access to a great learning environment.
Thank you for watching.